why are you doing what you're doing? You need them. You should value them. And you should make sure every layer, I don't know exactly what you want to call it, like the hierarchy, all the way from the CEO to the people that are, this is their first job or what it might be, they know that you value your customers. And that is the number one message that you need to get across to your customers.
Hi, I'm Matt Egol, host of the CX and Culture Connection, the podcast for business leaders looking to drive growth through the connection of customer experience and culture together. I'm excited to talk today with Audrey Stone, who's VP at JPMorgan Chase. And Audrey brings a focus on customer and employee experience together. She and I met as guests on a podcast recently together with my friend and colleague, Mark Mandel. It's great to see you again today, Audrey.
It's nice to see you again, Matt.
Now, you have a really fun tagline on your LinkedIn. You say, you refer to yourself as, quote, aspiring CXO, positive disruptor, and passionate, experienced professional.
Yes.
I love your energy. It's really cool. What superpowers do you bring to how you act as a change agent for CX and EX together?
So first off, I will say that I am lucky enough to be doing what I love and to be doing what I feel is me as a person. I don't know how many other people I've told this to, but my husband and I went out for our anniversary dinner and our waitress was amazing, right? And so what do? We go out of our way to find the general manager and make sure that they know. So my personal life and my professional life bleed over in that kind of way. But my superpower, honestly, is just talking to people. So you want to find out what's going on, you just go talk to people. And as an experienced professional, I'm able to have that safe space for folks that are giving feedback and yet provide insights for people that need to have information. So working with product owners, working with engineers, all the different parts of people creating technology and process and procedures, I say, what do you need to know? Okay, here's my toolbox. I'm going to use this method or that method, whatever it might be. And I set up kind of a listening strategy for them. I say, if you need to know this, this is what I'm going to ask. And I really set up and go through and do like a consultation with the requester, usually the product owner. So talking to people, not just being like, oh yeah, let's get a survey out there. I really want to, dig into root causes.
You mean talking to the internal stakeholders or external customers? What type of listening are you talking about?
Currently, I'm talking about internal. So our fellow employees. One of the things that I have found is we talk to the people that are doing the job. They are able to give you so much more insight and show you things that the other teams that are creating technology, process, or procedures don't know. So that journey mapping part, you're able to say, okay, product owner, this is where your customer comes from and why they're coming to you. And when they're done utilizing what you provide, this is where they go and this is why they go there. Because a lot of people don't know.
Audrey, one of the things that you're hitting on now that really resonates with me is how customer experiences and employee experiences overlap. And how, a lot of times we talk about humanizing the experience for the customer, but often there's an employee involved in that experience. So the employees know what experience the customer's having because they're part of it. Or if they have empathy and they're good listeners, they know and they can feel it. And so they have good insights about what the customer experience is often. So when we want to design things, it's helpful not only to think about the customer's experience, but the employee experience that's happening in parallel and the employee's perception of the customer experience.
I couldn't agree more, Matt. So the way that I look at it, I probably said this term about 100 times in the last month is the ripple effect. What is the ripple effect? You can, if you find yourself where you're like, I don't know what else to do for the customer at this point in time, like our CSAT scores are really great, this is going well, but we're still needing to improve. So if you focus on your employees and the technology, the process that they use, how they accomplish their tasks for the day, the ripple effect is then efficiency, quicker answer time to your customers that are calling in. Like that's the ripple effect that I like to think about, as well as those that are removed. If you are in more of the, I guess, corporate, like HR space, or you're away from the end user, by understanding the ripple effect, you can say, okay, I can enable this type of employee to do XYZ while still helping this employee do DCE, and both result in an increase in either satisfaction, efficiency, cost reduction, whatever it might be.
So you're talking about how customer effort, is part of the experience, removing friction, and employees feel that friction themselves. They're part of that experience where friction's occurring. Um, this is actually something that I talked a lot about on an episode with Sean Albertson. He has a really fun book called Four Rocks, and the metaphor is that rocks in the river create friction, and then there are different types of rocks. You can check out the episode if you want to see what the four rocks are. But I think it's a really interesting metaphor for a customer experience. If you ever think of a visual of a journey, well, the river is a journey, and the rocks along the journey, and I think it's a pretty fun way to look at it. That I'm torn on whether customer effort is the right golden metric. I'm not a big fan of golden metrics like NPS or customer effort, but they're useful as an input into building the insights. And customer effort can be a useful metric to, if you're really focusing on kind of getting rid of those rocks.
Yeah. Or even making sure that the shorelines don't get too narrow.
What are some of the rocks that you focus on removing, when you talk about the employee experience and the customer experience?
When I look at the customer experience, I look at what is the goal of my team in regard to what they're trying to get accomplished. What is the customer trying to get accomplished? So if you're trying to, gather information from the external client, then we need to make sure that we're asking in the most clear, understood way and why we're asking for this information. And if they need to take action, making sure that that is clear and concise. And no matter who that customer talks to, they want to hear the same message. So that consistency, yeah, that consistency I wanna make sure is there, because especially, like, in a call center situation, you do have, hopefully, that positive turnover where people are, moving on and up within the company, so having those fresh pair of eyes constantly, I think gives you the opportunity to really focus on the game and keeping that message consistent.
A lot of focus recently in the call centers is on reducing call volume because of the cost impact, and using chat as a way of automating and AI to automate things. Um, I think it's a hybrid, really. It's impossible to get rid of all the calls, nor would you want to in every case, because some experiences call out for human interaction. But how do you think about the employee behavior and like the way the employees show up in the call, like as part of the experience?
Back in the old days, as they say, it was leave your bag of trash at the door, right? That's how we were guided to partake in our customer service spaces. Now, I believe in bringing your whole self to work, right? You are who you are. You might be having a bad day. You might be having a great day, and you're like, oh, now I have to go to work, right? Whatever the thing might be. When you show up, I do think that you kind of have to get whatever out of your system. So if you have to vent to somebody or whatever you have to do to kind of reset and say, okay, that's out of my system for now. And then focus on, like you said, for call centers, acting like every call is the first call of the day. And having for that employee to be able to do that, having those like micro breaks, especially after more difficult customer calls. So that way you can reset mentally. Like, that really sucked. Hey, peer, let me tell you about this real quick. Um, and then basically what you would do is be able to stop for a second and refocus and start again.
How do you get that consistency of the experience then for the employees to then deliver it to the customer? Is that through the training, through the hiring? Like, what do you focus on the employee side to deliver that consistent experience for the customer?
Currently, I focus so I have a team that supports those that are on the phone. And one of the things that I do is since you're supporting folks on the phone, you need to know what's going on the phone, right? So having that understanding, and then the culture that one person, if you're a manager, your team works for you. They don't work for your manager, the CEO of the company, whatever. They work for you. So you get to set the tone of how everybody works together. And I'm a person that believes strongly in communication, transparency, setting expectations up front and making sure they're clear and concise. So if I can say, this is our team, this is what we do, right? Like, here's your mission and here's your vision statement of where we're going to go over the next couple years. And as long as you're true to that and you are taking care of the people that you're supporting and you're open to the feedback when something happens, that is where I think not only my team would succeed, right? But also the people on the phone feel like they're being heard. They're more open with us and more likely to come to us rather than waiting for us to come to them about suggestions or questions of how things are going.
What you're highlighting is the space that the team leader and the manager is creating, and the way they interact with their team members has a huge impact on the emotions of the employees and the way they contribute and how effective they're going to be. So, how do you think about like that softer side of this employee experience versus more um, systematic approaches for training and behavior and habit building among the people?
I think you have to care about your people, number one. If you don't care, they're not going to care. If you don't put in the effort and show them that, I'm here to support you, that's going to be a negative employee experience for them.
And that'll
Right.
translate through to the customer experience too.
100%. Absolutely. Because you can't, as much as you want to, hide tone of your voice all the time, right? You might want to try to put on that sunshine face. You might be looking at yourself in the mirror with that fake smile on, and it's just still not working for you. So, making sure that you, especially if you're in that management position, you're not just off in your office, door closed, all those people are out there doing what they do. As the manager, you need to have a balance of EQ and the business focus. So, the EQ part is recognizing these are adults, like they're here to do a job, but understanding that these folks may be running the business. I am back here looking at how to support them, how to grow them, taking, feedback and their ideas to see what enhancements we can actually do for the people that they're talking to. And also letting those people on the phones know that my team, all these folks are your supporters. So if you need something, we're here. EQ is just so important. So, so, so important in regard to kind of being that chameleon sometimes, but more so the reflection of the emotion that you're getting from somebody, having that empathy.
When you talk about like what people need behind the scenes, maybe you could help unpack this for the audience a little bit. Do you mean that like in financial services, the product is often technology supported? You need to have information, there needs to be a process. And so the people on the phone are tapping into systems and tools and there's an interaction with the customer. So you're providing the data and the technology that they're using in the call with the customer.
Correct. Correct. So anybody that has ever worked in a call center, I ask them, how many systems do you have to have up during the day in order to do your job? Right. So that's the first thing that I would always look at is there a way to integrate these systems? Is there a way to change, how the flow goes? Or if you have to use this system for texting, you have to use this system for calls, whatever it might be, can we separate folks so they only have that system to worry about? Always low hanging fruit, right? What can you do right now? Because we know that the larger technology changes we don't have control over. We know those are coming from higher up. So if you at least know and are aware of what it looks like day to day, you're able to then help support those people by passing that information up to the folks that are making the technology decisions.
When you talked about, Audrey, like how many screens are up and how many different pieces of information people have to juggle and look at to do their job, you know, I think what that kind of connects with is the area people are working on now with like, AI to augment the experience or agents to assist the experience. And there's a lot of focus now on, like in the past, we would have tried to integrate all of the data and integrate all of the systems. And now we're using AI to create a bridge or a way to have a bot help you, be a co-pilot with you. In fact, that was a big focus at like Dreamforce this year for Salesforce. And Marty Kine was just on the podcast recently. He's the VP at the Data and Marketing Cloud at the SVP of Data and Marketing Cloud at Salesforce. And we used to work together at Booz years ago. And he was a really fun podcast guest. He has a book that just came out, Customer 360.
Yeah.
And I had him on the podcast. And if people want to make sure they don't miss any episode, be sure to like and subscribe. What are your thoughts about then, the way that like Marty was talking about agents and AI and things like, what are your thoughts about how to apply those types of tools to do some of the work you're talking about now?
Wherever possible, the mundane, everyday kind of tasks, the things that are like, hey, what's my balance? It's this. What's, XYZ? Oh, it's this. It's a very transactional conversation with the external customer. I do believe that AI can totally take that for us. However, there are people that want to talk to other people. I know it's strange. There's still those people out there um, that we want to be able to have that human connection or more difficult, non everyday, kind of those ad hoc things that we need to speak about. And I don't think that will ever go away, but I do believe that AI is going to help us so that we can have the more in-depth emotional connection with our customers um, when it's needed, when things, when you can kind of sense that I'm upset or I'm anxious or whatever that might be, or I have a gazillion questions that a bot can't necessarily take care of. But on the flip side of that, one of the things that I love about AI is that I can use that to help me synthesize and do an analysis of an interview that I might have done. Right. So my bias is taken out of it. And of course, there's going to be some human touch that's going to be needed in regard to that. But I do believe it can help. And then it will help people that are doing certain tasks to grow and do different tasks, more human touch type things.
I mean, one of the things you're highlighting now is the power of AI for um, synthesis, for summarization, for things like that. So, like, to give a few examples of this, like in a call center, for the audience, because I'm sure you know these in the call center, you might save 2 or 3 minutes of summarization at the end of a call because the AI can do it for you, and then people can like review it rather than write it. If you do a lot of calls, that adds up. Similarly, it can complement your customer or employee surveys, not only mining the open-ended questions in a survey, but you can start taking the calls, the chats, the emails. You have to think about where you're crossing a line or not by mining some of these conversations. But you can summarize and synthesize a massive amount of insights from all these conversations that a human being would otherwise be the one who spots the clues and acts on them. Your AI, and think about if you only get 5 or 10, or if you're lucky, 20% of people to take the survey. Now you have all these conversations as a source of insights now. So you have the kind of clue consciousness, to borrow Lou Carbone's phrase, of your people, combined with the insights that you're mining. It's very powerful.
Absolutely. I mean, think about how fast our world has changed in the past now 24 years, right? I don't know about you, but I remember in 99, I was like, okay, New Year's Eve, the world is not going to end, right? And to think about technology in 24 years has gone from basically, minimal to look what we can do. We're actually creating LLM, utilizing AI. So mining what people are talking about so that we can start to get ahead of some of the topics or concerns that our customers might have and they're starting to call or chat about. So having that information is very valuable, again, to get ahead of any trends that may be starting.
One of the things that, I think we're just on the front end of now, there's a lot of potential, is um, in the past, if we wanted to create a persona or create a segment, we would have to do surveys and interviews, and that would become like something that was a once and done exercise. Whereas now you can actually mine the conversations and score attributes of based on all. So like I'm a big fan of building personas where you build the upfront insights through the qualitative work, and really build the insights. But then once you know the attributes of the personas that you care about, you can actually mine the conversations. And what I've seen, for example, with one client is they had um, um, ongoing conversations with the customer over, multiple interactions, and they were able to assign the persona to the customer partway into the, not the first conversation, but we're not there yet. But like once there's enough data, you can actually assign a persona. And then once you do that, you can actually start tailoring all of the experiences based on what persona someone's in, whether it's your marketing campaigns or your product or your content experiences. You can also train your people in your call center to interact differently with different personas.
100% agree with
How
you.
do you think about Yeah, how do you think about these types of opportunities for, which of them are real and where are you kind of looking on the horizon?
I do believe, Jeannie Walker's actually talked about this recently where your first contact with the customer is not the beginning of the customer's experience, right? You are a part of that. Something has either gone wrong, gone really right, and they want to let somebody know. It's a transaction. Something triggered that. So if you have the AI built in to where you can track that customer throughout multiple places throughout a company and understand their full journey, the personas can only be that much more accurate, but can also provide information, um, like background experiences for the person taking a call. The more information you have in regard to previous experiences, the more you can understand as the person on the phone, how do I need to interact with this person? So, has this person been a customer of ours for 20 years and this is the first time they're calling in? Okay, I know, I'm going to approach that call differently than somebody that's called in once a week for the past 8 weeks trying to get something accomplished.
So a number of years ago, this was something I loved the phrase that Home Depot used to talk about it. They called it interconnected retail, which is if somebody has experience with the website or the digital assets of a company, and then they show up in the store later, you have a totally disconnected experience with that customer. But they think of themselves interacting with you, and then they show up in the store and they have a disconnected experience. They have to go back through explaining it. The same thing happens all the time in the call centers. So like this is the promise of what Marty was talking about in Customer 360 is actually being able to integrate these different experiences together. And I think we're getting closer to that promise. It still takes a lot of work on the data and the technology and all that, but we're getting much closer to actually creating these seamless experiences and removing those rocks we were talking about so that there's actually a more connected experience all the way through where people have the right information and we can tailor the experience. And then you can really start layering on some of these benefits we're talking about with personalization and things like that.
I mean, in the Home Depot case, that's one thing. You're going from virtual to in person. In a place where you're going from this call center to that call center to this person and over here, if you're not currently, I think the situation is a warm transfer, right? If I can give a warm transfer, hopefully the customer won't have to repeat themselves. But that's time consuming versus the information just automatically popping up. Oh, I see, we just got you over from XYZ department and that you're looking for this. I can go ahead and get that done for you right now. Um, that, in my opinion, would be absolutely amazing as folks on the phone, but also for the customer's experience, right? Because you're not getting that person that this is the fifth transfer they've had and they have to explain themselves yet again. It's getting that person to the right place, the right person the first time, and already knowing what they need. That is just, I mean, if we can do that, not only, yes, like you said, metrics will go up, of course, in a positive way, but think about burnout for your employees. Think about, all the stressors that come with angry people, and all those peripheral things that folks may not think about. That's all your employee experience. So even though you're doing this for your customer, your employee is still benefiting from it as well.
What you're highlighting is, the one of the things people focus on with the EX, CX, employee experience, customer experience intersection is happy employee equals happy customer because of the emotions you talked about and how people show up. But also employee churn is a real issue, a significant issue in call centers particularly, but other parts of the organization. Frontline associates in healthcare and sale and retail and banking, not just the call center. So that is an issue to solve for, but I'd like to think of it not just as draining the pain and removing the negative. That's what part of the reason why I'm not in love with like customer effort is because it focuses on reducing negative as opposed to truly building brand love. And I think you need a balance of reducing detraction and reducing friction and actually creating delight. And loyalty is actually a different part of the brain. The part that's activated for love and happiness and friendship is not the fight or flight portion of the brain. And so we actually, if you want to build loyalty, you have to build good experiences, not just reduce negative experiences.
I 100% agree with that. And one of the things that I think about a lot is if you don't have loyal customers, if you don't have people coming to you for what you're putting out into the world, why are you doing what you're doing? You need them. You should value them and you should make sure every, layer, I don't know exactly what you want to call it, like the hierarchy, all the way from the CEO to the people that are, this is their first job or what it might be. They know that you value your customers. And that is the number one message that you need to get across to your customers. We value you. Guess what? I'm going to do what is within my realm here, what I have control over to help you out. Let me give you this information. Let me give you that information. I have additional things to provide you with, customer, so that you know that we value you, so that you will continue to do business with us.
What you're talking about right now is that is the CX and culture connection. That's the name of the podcast. That's the name of my book. I love this topic. I'm glad that you and I are like-minded on this, that the culture is about behavior. It's not value and purpose and mission. Those are all important, but the behavior is where things ultimately really happen. And the way your employees engage with customers and with each other, that's behavior, that's culture. And that starts with the leader, the manager, the way managers work with their teams. That's all behavior. That's the CX and culture connection.
I think that's where you really have the opportunity to look at the different types of managers you have within your firm, within your company, business, whatever you want to call it, and understand if you look at them and you look at the behavior of the manager, and the manager's like, just get stuff done, right? Just get it done, get it out there, da 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 da. Versus somebody that's like, let's slow down to speed up. Let's slow down so we really understand what the problem is, because we want to solve one time for our customer. We don't want to have to keep iterating and going back and having all this tech debt or, additional dollars that we didn't account for. 100% agree with you, Matt.
One of the other ways that the behavior intersects the CX that I'd love to get your thoughts on something is and share something with the audience is that when you make choices on your CX strategy and you're making choices about how you're creating value for the customer and for the company, and they typically fall into one of three places that you're trading off on: better, faster, and cheaper. It's strategies about choice. Are you trying to be better, which is like we're innovative, we have high quality, it's a premium experience that goes beyond the product itself? That's better. And there are different ways that you can be better. Faster is about really fast response times, giving information quickly, solving problems quickly, innovating quickly. So it's a complement to better, but you can actually spike on being faster, being agile, and the cultural behaviors will be different in an organization if you're trying to emphasize better or faster. Cheaper is not about being just like low cost. You want to do that in a way that's still high quality. So it's the cost of quality and getting things right the first time and predicting it. But there's a whole set of things you can do to be cheaper. But the behaviors of the organization, the culture, need to be aligned with your strategy for CX. So how do you think about this? Like, does that resonate with you? Do you have a different way of picking this up?
No, I absolutely agree with you. And uh, I think people have their different mindsets of what they think is happening. So from the top down, if there is a strategy, that needs to be communicated and completely transparent. The way that I like to approach things is, okay, we think this is the problem. So let's go investigate. Is this the actual problem or not? Um, and then when you find out the information, you have to, I do like agile practices a lot, because then you shift. Okay, we were going down this road. Now we need to go down this road. Um, Being agile, especially with technology and how fast it changes, um, eh, I don't, I don't foresee, like, okay, we've set our path, or waterfall, I guess you could say, is how folks used to work. You know that you have to do a certain amount of things in regard to updating, changing, improving, whatever that might be. That might be kind of waterfall, but the actual decisions and the path that you're taking should be agile, if that makes sense to you.
I think of it as a little bit fluid. You can be agile-esque.
Yeah,
And it doesn't have to be interpreted literally as like agile product management and all the exact disciplines of being agile from a software perspective. And also a company can be hybrid, can be bimodal, where they're waterfall on some things and agile on other things. It's not one way or the other, black and white.
exactly. Because not every change, not every situation is going to be the same. So there are certain things, that you're going to have to do. You have to make sure, your cybersecurity is up to date and that you're as safe as you can be. You're going to have to talk to this person or that team. But overall, the larger decision in which you're asking for that information can be vastly different.
How do you think about making sure that like what the culture is aligned to the CX? How do you, in your role straddling CX and EX, how do you see yourself or in your philosophy, not limited to your company, but the way you approach things? How do you think about like your role as a change agent to impact the culture?
So I just started a new role literally 6 weeks ago. And I know that there was some concern that, oh, somebody new is coming in and they're going to just change everything right off the bat. Who likes that? You've been working on this team, doing your thing. This new person comes in, they don't know what's going on, and they just completely mess things up, in other words. I'm not going to do that because I wouldn't want that done to me. It's the golden rule. And then I also think about Jean Bliss's book, Would You Do That to Your Mother? Like, if my mom were working here with me, how would I go about this positively disrupting, right? And making changes where changes need to be made. So, number one, lead by example. Number two, listen. Don't just wait to talk. Don't just, okay, well, I know what I'm going to do anyway, but I'm going to pretend like I'm taking it. You really, really, really need to take into account what is going on, what people have to say. Don't be afraid of feedback. Don't take it in regard to like such a negative way. I tell my team, give me feedback because if I'm doing something that upsets you and you don't tell me about it, guess what? You're going to be upset every day. And I'm going to be wondering what the heck your problem is. So I do believe that that's super important in regard to being a change agent, a culture carrier, culture changer, even is treating people like they're people. Let's talk, let's chat. I want to be transparent as much as I can be where I can be. And I want to show you how our roles should be working together. So I came in and I've already disrupted the team, but not in regard to how they how they work. It's just some of that peripheral stuff that will help them work better, and understand the why. Of course, we know that is essential. So coming in and sitting with folks for a day and just shadowing. No pressure. I'm just shadowing. Can you kind of explain what you're doing? Think out loud. It really is just like when you're observing for a user test. It's the same thing with my employees because they are the ones that my output affects.
I know you've sparked a lot of great ideas for me in this conversation, and I'm sure you have for the audience as well. It's been a lot of fun to talk together again today, Audrey. If people wanted to get in touch with you, is LinkedIn the best way?
Absolutely. I know that I met some wonderful people from Mark's podcast, and I would love to meet even more wonderful people from Swan. So, yes, please send me a message. Let's connect on LinkedIn.
So for the audience, just so in case you're interested, Audrey and I were on a podcast called CX Tales from the Trenches with Mark Mandel. Mark and I had a home and away recently. By the way, we're friends and actually live in the same town. It's what are the odds that Mark and I met through an event at the CXP, and we actually both live in the same town in North Carolina. But I was on Mark's podcast recently together with Audrey. We've hit it off since then. And Mark was recently a guest also on the CX and Culture Connection together with Sean, who I mentioned earlier. And Mark and I are both part of a community that Sean's been launching that there's a network of CX experts. You can see some of the recent episodes with Mark and Sean and I, as well as with Roberta and Susie and Jason. So I'm been having a number of the experts on. The community is called CX on the Rocks. You can go to www.cxontherocks to learn more and join the community. We're just going to get together every month, and I'm acting as the CX culture expert in the community, and really excited to meet more of you through that community and to have a chance to share perspectives and help you address the CX and culture connection. Thanks so much for being on the podcast, Audrey.
Oh,
And
having me.
people can probably tell that you're wearing a holiday T-shirt. So we recorded this before the holidays, but it's airing after the holidays.
Yes. Hey, you gotta have a little bit of fun here and there, right?
Exactly. Have a wonderful day, everybody.